Thank you for being here. We're going to go ahead and get started. We've got our, the plan is to have more people online than there are in the room here. So we'll be having people joining us that way. Welcome to the KU Edwards campus. I'm Rick Ginsberg. I'm the Dean of the School of Education and Human Sciences. And this is our KU and Kansas State Department of Education jointly sponsored summer conference. We've been doing this now for 15 years. We provide a free day of professional development for educators and others interested in education. We call our conference Strategies for Educational Improvement. And this year, our focus is on challenging the ways we work. Certainly something I think we've all been thinking about, the advent of new technologies and COVID and all that. First thing I want to do is thank all the people that made this possible. It certainly does take a village to put an event like this on. I want to mention Sherry Willis and Jeannie Houts and Aspen Grender and Jacqueline Dudek and Laurie Herman Ginsberg and Jennifer Besselo, who were the planning committee that did that. And of course, our people out front, Katrina Moore, Jessica, and Belinda. Again, it was a team that worked really hard to put this together. Let's just give them all a round of applause if we can. This year, we're doing it differently than we've ever done it before. For years prior to COVID, we would do a fairly traditional conference where we would bring in 2 or 3 keynote speakers. We always had the commissioner come in. He'll be here at lunch to speak to us. And then we would do about 30 sessions in the afternoon. COVID hit and we went online and we did it over a couple of days and tried doing it that way. And this year, we're doing something new yet again. We're doing a series of 10-minute TED Talks. It's you don't get bored that way. Things happen quickly. And the way we've set it up is that each of the speakers will have 10 minutes. And we have the Gestapo here to make sure that they finish within 10 minutes. Former principal, of course. So we make sure that finish in 10 minutes time. Then there'll be a little bit of time for questions, either from people in the audience here or from our colleagues joining us online. And then we're going to break you, let you talk amongst your groups at your tables. And we've asked each of the speakers to pose 2 questions. And we'll want you to talk about those questions. For those who are in the online stratosphere, what we're going to do is randomly set you up into groups of probably 5 or 6 so they can do the same things that you're doing here. To make this even more interactive, we've created a Jamboard. Now you're all teachers. How many here know what a Jamboard is and have used them before? Yeah, they told me that you would all know. Luddites like me, I had not used a Jamboard before. And if there are others out there that haven't, there will be a QR code and the URL up on the screen. And you can just go to it that way. If you've never used a Jamboard, what you do is once you get onto the site, you just go to the left side of the page and there's a little icon for a Post-it note, and you hit that and you start writing away. And that will allow us to have kind of an idea of what your questions or comments or thoughts might be, and maybe spur us on to more work together going forward. We've created a different Jamboard for each presentation, so you'll just have to stroll through when you do that in order to do it. So how best to describe what we're doing here today? I think the idea for this started with a new book that you're going to hear from one of our distinguished professors, Young Zhao, who's remarkable. Couldn't be here, so he's done something on video for us. We wrote a book called Duck and Cover, Confronting and Correcting Dubious Practices in Education. Those of you old enough to remember duck and cover practices, we used to put our hands behind our head and our knees up to our stomach and get under our wooden desks in case the Russians dropped the bomb on our heads, because of course those desks were anti-nuclear and would have protected us if a bomb actually fell. And what we did is we used that as kind of the metaphor for the idea that we do a lot of dumb things and just don't think about it. And we started thinking about, okay, what are some of the things that we're doing now that we don't think about that maybe we have to change? And lo and behold, AI hit, and ChatGPT and virtual reality. And if you're paying attention, you know that that's really quite dramatic and should change the way we operate. It's going to change work in a lot of ways. Suffice to say, we identified a lot of policies and practices that needed to be looked at. Of course, looking at education isn't new. You're an educator, you're educators, we're scrutinized all the time. I was talking to Lori Curtis about some of our colleagues in the legislature. Many times are scrutinized by people who don't really understand the work as well as maybe they should. But a lot has occurred over the last couple of years. I remember being at an event in Kansas City, Missouri, in March 2020, when we were all talking about this thing that was coming called COVID that might affect our lives. And 4 days later, KU closed its campus and we all had to be online within 1 week. You all in the schools lived at exactly the same thing. It completely shattered our common routines and our expectations. And then we started getting back to some regularity, and all of a sudden we're confronted with this unsettling nature of some new and remarkable technologies like ChatGPT and artificial intelligence. Apple just released its virtual reality that I haven't tested yet. Jamie probably is familiar with that. I mean, this stuff is game changing. It's going to change work. It's going to change our lives. Young Zhao's may talk about this today, I'm not sure, but Young says that the new technologies create fear and hope simultaneously. And I love that characterization because I think that captures kind of where we're all at about this. For educators, we know that changing our practice is hard. Why? Well, guess what? No matter what we want to do, kids come to school every single day. Teachers have to engage with the students. We work within systems that have a lot of complex regularities in an environment with parents who want the best for kids, and sometimes are in your face telling you what that is, with politicians with an array of interests and ideas, sometimes helpful, other times less helpful. Educators, you all have been trained in certain approaches and perspectives, and now we're telling you, hey, go ahead and use this artificial intelligence in what you're doing. It's challenging. How do we ruffle those feathers? How do we change the plane while it's in flight? That's the challenge, and that's what we're about today. Historically, crises seem to have a way of affecting deep change, and I think the best example of that is COVID, where we just, I don't know for how many years we were told in higher education never changes, and on a dime, everybody went online. Kelly knows this, my associate dean, Kelly Feldman. We went online a couple of years ago, and I would say about 75% of the faculty said, I never want to teach online. I just don't ask me, it's a good idea. I don't want to do it. COVID hit, please, can I teach online, right? Everybody wanted to do it for fear of having to be around people who carry disease and might affect them. With the advent of new technologies, though, we expect that a crisis is emerging that is big enough that may challenge some of the sacred norms that we all hold so dear, that really are hard to change. Remember that small changes happen in schools all the time, but the core of teaching, students in a didactic relationship, teachers in a didactic relationship with largely passive students, that technology, that hasn't changed in over 100 years. And so the question is, can we affect the core? That's what this technology has an opportunity to do for us. How? I don't know. That's what we're going to talk about today. So that's what we're all about with this conference. We know and believe that teachers and students can change and will change. Despite the great work that you all have been doing and teachers and educators have been doing for generations, the needs for today and tomorrow, especially in the face of disruptive technologies like ChatGPT, are game-changing for us all. So will approaches to teaching and learning change? And if so, how? We hope to explore and examine these questions across several fronts today, hopefully start to reimagine what might be possible for us in the future. Our goal today is to generate ideas and your best thinking so we can walk down this path of necessary change together, with the ultimate goal, of course, of meeting the needs of all students, because that's at the heart of what you all do every single day. We firmly believe that the new technologies will allow for a form of personalized learning that was never realized before. We talk about it. This has an opportunity to really move us in that direction. But whatever emerges with technology, all the issues that currently plague students, like the crises in emotional health, we're going to hear from Trent Herder about fitness related issues, big deals, important issues for students, all the issues that you face as teachers and leaders, and the challenges that schools are dealing with. All the great technologies in the world aren't going to make those issues disappear, and no matter the great potential of what's coming. And those issues can't be ignored. So we have to grapple with how these disruptive technologies may change our work and how we keep the human element in what we do in working with students. So I'll leave you with this thought. Technologies, no matter how powerful, aren't human. They have abilities. Young Zhao talks about them, we'll be talking about smart machines, but it's human beings that discover, it's human beings that create, it's human beings that provide emotional and relational support, it's human beings that reason, human beings that debate. The human things that educators bring to classrooms, that's what we have to figure out how we integrate with the new technologies. So we're thrilled that you're with us today, whether online or face-to-face. Let's think and let's talk and let's engage and let's change together. Michael Fullen is a great writer about change, and he had a wonderful admonition years ago about how to change schools. And he said it this way: let the group change the group. I think that's a wonderful characterization for what we are hoping to do today and going forward together. So that's what we're all about. Thank you all for being here. And now we're going to get started with our first speaker.